Let's take a look at the purchase order module and functionality in JobPro. When you're on the home screen, you have the ability to click on an arrow under the purchase order module to give you like the quick view area for purchasing. So anything here that's outstanding, including late items, you can then see in a list. And click on an item to view that PO. So let's go into the purchase module. Now, a purchase order could be created from multiple places in the system. You could create a purchase order from a product record, from a supplier area in the product screen. For example, in here, if we look at the purchasing tab, we've got lots of functionality in here related to purchasing for products. Now, all this is covered in a separate video tutorial for the products module. But very quickly, you can create a PO from here, and it'll use then the minimum order quantity if there is one for a particular supplier. Or you can create a PO related to a specific location, like a stock location. So here's another place to create a purchase order, where in this case there's a reorder quantity of 10 for this particular location, and it'll use that quantity automatically on the PO. Or alternatively, we could be looking at, for example, a quotation or sales order, where for particular line items on the quotation or sales order, on the stock view section or tab, we can create POs from here as well if we need to fulfill stock. If there's balances short, balance is not available because of other sales orders that already have booked items on the system. You can also create POs from a customer or supplier screen as well. So lots of places that you can create a PO from. Just depends on what you need to do and from where. So let's go back into the purchase order module. Let's create a new record, and we can link this then to a supplier. So the top half of the screen, we can specify things like delivery date, a tracking number as well, if we want to track this item from a shipping in point of view. Supplier quote ref, put in a heading on the printed PO, include signature, various other options as well. But also there's the ability to change this PO to a dropship PO. So a dropship PO means that the supplier then will ship directly the goods to a customer. So if we click on this, and then we can specify who the customer is. We can change who the contact is if relevant. We can change the actual delivery address as well. So this information will appear then on the printed purchase order. It's also worth noting that if you want to track the shipping of this in advance, in other words, if it might take a number of days, for example, for the items to be sent from the actual supplier to the customer, or even if you're receiving the goods and it's not a drop ship, you can still track shipping in advance, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. But if we track shipping in advance, what will happen is we're creating a shipping record, but it's a drop ship as opposed to a shipping in relating to a PO, or a shipping out record where you're sending goods directly yourself to a customer. So over on the right hand side, we also have the ability to do things like set whether this record is a line entry or text entry based PO. So the difference is that line entry is more about codes and descriptions, while text entry is more about putting in paragraphs of text. Now that you can set as a default in setup. So every time you create a PO, it defaults to either line entry or text entry. We can also specify the payment terms for this PO for the supplier. This can be defaulted as well from the supplier screen in the company module. We've got a default tax code that has come from the company module for the supplier, and we can change the hour rep and the identity also for this item. So let's now go and add an item to this PO. Now you can manually put in a description here, but you can also click in and select a code. Now it's defaulting to products for this particular that are linked to this supplier. So let's just pick this item here. We can see that in stock there's 33 of these. And now we could assign it to a job number as well. So it would apply the cost to a job. We can enter in a category, which these can also default at the product level as well. So let's put in a quantity of 2. And now we can see that there is a balance of 2 remaining from a shipping and receiving point of view. We can also do returns from a PO as well, which we'll have a look at that in a minute. So let's say that we want to track in advance the shipping of this item coming in, or in this case it's actually the tracking of it being drop shipped to the customer. So we can create a shipping record from here. So if we click into the shipping column, we can say we want to track a full quantity of 2, or we can actually put in a part shipping, which if we put in 1. But in this case, let's just create a full shipping to track for this item. So it's saying then, would you like to add into the system the 2 serial numbers for the following item being drop shipped? So this gives us the ability that even though these items are not going to be received into our stock because they're going straight to the customer, but because these items, or this item, quantity of 2, it is tracked by serial number, we do have the ability of introducing those serial numbers into the system in case we need to track those serial numbers at a later stage. For example, if something needs to be repaired or a service needs to be done on a piece of equipment. So let's just click yes on that. Now the only reason this is coming up because in the products module we've set that this particular item is tracked by serial numbers. If we weren't doing a drop ship here, this message wouldn't come up, but when we receive the goods, it would then prompt us to specify the serial numbers for the 2 items that we're receiving into our own stores. So we click on yes, and in this case we can generate the serial number automatically because that's the preference for this particular product in the products module. The alternative to this is that we'd manually put in the serial numbers for these items, where we could use a barcode scanner. Now it's also giving a message to say that this shipping record was created, because we've created a shipping record, remember, in advance, but it's saying this shipping record was created from a purchase order and that is now fully received. Set the status of the PO to received. So in this case we can click on yes, and we've set the received status in here automatically. So if we look at, for example, the track shipping button here, we can then, it'll give us an option to say that this function cannot be performed as the purchase order is already received. So in other words, we can't actually create any more shipping records from here. But if we want to track the shipping records or view what shipping records were created, we can click on the shipping tab and we can see the one record that was created. Now this is a sort of an unusual example because we were doing a drop ship. So let's create another quick one. We pick the same supplier. We won't do a drop ship, but we'll pick the same product just to show you the more standard method of using purchase orders. We'll put in a quantity of 5. Now in here, again, we can track shipping in advance, or we can just fully receive or partially receive the actual item or items on the PO. So let's do a tracking in advance, because we might want to track the shipping of this particular product into our own stores. Now because this isn't a drop ship, it does give us the ability to change the stock location that we're going to be receiving this item into. But let's just stick to the same or the usual main stock location. So we click in here and we might say that the supplier might have already shipped a quantity of 3 of these, so we want to track a quantity of 3 of those. We can see that the balance to be shipped is still 2, but that we haven't received any yet. So if we click on this, we can see here's the shipping record, and we can view that shipping record in the shipping module. So here we are, we can see who the customer, or sorry, the supplier is. We can set a carrier as well, who's actually sending the goods. We can put in a tracking number, for example, and we can track that on the tracking tab in here. So if we put in a valid tracking number, we'd then be able to see more information relating to the tracking of this shipping record, and we can view the full screen for that particular interaction with the carrier's website in here. So if we were to set the shipping record to be complete, it'll ask you then, setting the status to complete will generate stock movements, and that cannot be undone. Because this item is tracked by serial numbers, basically, it's going to prompt us to specify the serial numbers for the items, the tree in this case, being added into the system. So let's generate those serial numbers automatically. And then you can print like a goods received section as well that will show the serial numbers that were received. Now, this shows us that this shipping record was created from a PO. So this is a quick way to get back to the PO. And now we can see on the line entry tab for this PO that we have received 3 of them and there's a balance of 2. So basically, the received quantity is tied into the shipped quantity because it's technically the shipping record that receives the goods anyway. Now, if we don't want to track the shipping of goods, the easiest way to receive on a PO, if you were part receiving a PO, is to click into the quantity here. So for example, we've clicked into the quantity received. We've only a max of 2 that we can still receive on this PO. So if, for example, we hadn't received anything, we could put in a quantity of 5. So let's put in 2, click OK. It'll ask us to generate the serial numbers. If this item wasn't tracked by serial numbers, it wouldn't be obviously asking us this. And now it's saying that this purchase order is fully received. Would you like to set the status of the PO to received? So we'll say yes. And now this PO is fully received. There's no balances to be received or to be shipped by the supplier. And if we look at this tab here, we can see that there were 2 shipping records created in the receiving of these items. The first one we created in advance to track the original quantity of 3, and that's this one here. But then we just auto-created a receive of the 2 remaining items instead of creating the shipping record in advance. So that covers the tracking of shipping and receiving of goods on a PO. Now you can also return goods from a PO as well. So let's say that one of the items was faulty and we want to return those. So we click on return. The maximum we can obviously enter is 5, but let's just put in 1. Click continue. So it's going to specify or ask us, well, which particular serial number are you returning? So let's select this last one here. Click continue. So that has now created, and you'll see on the shipping tab, it's created a shipping out record that's flagged as a return. And we can then click on that to view the shipping record. So you could technically track the shipping out of that return as well, if you needed to, by specifying the carrier and the tracking number from within here. So the shipping module is linked into the PO module in relation to the movement of goods, incoming, outgoing, or drop shipping to customers direct from suppliers. We can see then back on the purchase order screen, quantity of 1 was returned. We can also then track supplier invoices on a purchase order as well, or across multiple purchase orders. So if we receive a PO in, we can create a PO. So we can create a purchase order for the full invoice balance, for example. We say yes. And we can put in the invoice number, the status that's been invoiced, or whether it's been paid or not, the terms of the invoice, the due date, etc. any notes, if it's been approved, and whether it's been paid or not, and the date paid. So then here it shows you there's a balance of 0. But you can also create a purchase invoice credit or a credit note from here as well relating to this purchase order. Let's say for the returned item. But that's obviously put then an unallocated amount in because we had originally put in the full amount on the paid. So let's just set that to 422. Okay, so that covers the supplier invoices tab. You can also print invoices received for that relevant PO as well, and it'll show the credit note and if there's a balance relating to that PO to be paid. On the other tab in purchase orders, you can do things like put in comments on a purchase order, log any notes or communications relating to a purchase order, and also you've got custom fields where you can enter and set up what do you call your custom 1, 2 and 3 fields for the purchase orders module. If we click on the list button in the PO module, for the found set of records that we're currently looking at, in this case we've got 7 out of 105 purchase orders in this demo data. And in here then, well, let's just do a find all so we've got more information. We can then look through different purchase orders for different suppliers, sort by contact, by supplier, by the amounts, anything, any of the columns here you can sort by or unsort by clicking that button. And then on the options tab, we've got various options like finding purchase orders and supplier reports or product reports that you can run. So for example, if we want to do a product report detailed, click on this, we can put a heading in, and then we can search for find criteria. For example, we could do a search on a specific product, or for products across a supplier, or for anything where there's POs that are on order, shipped, received, etc. So we can do various find criteria here on what we want to use or include on this report. So let's just pick, for example, anything with a product code, just to give something on the report, and click continue. So this report then is based on product, so it's going to have the name of the product and then any purchase orders underneath it that this product was used on. And you can browse through the report by clicking on the arrow key on your keyboard. And hit enter to go back. So various report options in here, and also then we've got other options for the current record. You can print the PO, you can email the purchase order. You can also do things like print and email the purchase order in different languages. So you click on the flag and select a different language. Print labels. You can duplicate the current purchase order. So if you regularly purchase items from a supplier, you can then pull up a previous purchase order and duplicate that, and it'll save you having to re-enter all the details on that PO. A bit like a template feature. You can also create an email letter or fax relating to this purchase order, create shipping records, which we've shown you from the line items tab on the PO. You can receive items or create shipping return records from here as well. Usually it's easier though to do it from the actual data entry screen. And for the found set of POs, you can do things like print the purchase orders, print a mini list, print labels using the supplier's address for all the POs, print labels using the shipping address for all the POs, or just print purchase order total versus supplier invoices received. So for example, this report, based on the found set of records, you can then look at total POs, invoices received and balance. So that covers fairly much the purchase order functionality in the purchase module itself. But there are other modules that will relate to the purchase module. For example, if we go into the company module and if we do a search on suppliers, and then if we have a look at the orders tab in here, so here we see a supplier, we can see any relevant purchase orders, whether they're complete or in progress for that supplier. We can see them here. We can also create a purchase order from here as well. You have the same functionality as we've seen already in the products module level, where we've got the purchasing functionality, and also we can see any previous purchase orders for that item in here, creating POs relevant to multiple locations or relevant to specific suppliers, where you can create additional suppliers for a particular item and create POs at the level of the supplier level. Or you can also create POs from a job, for example. So maybe if you're outsourcing something on a job or just purchasing stock or items that you're going to use up in the job, you can do that from here. So that pretty much covers the purchasing module and purchasing related functionality throughout the system.